Come home. Please come home. I miss you. The kids miss you. I don't know what's going on lately.
Baldoni fights back. Blake Lively rocked by appeal that could destroy her and the New York Times. It started as a Hollywood scandal, the kind whispered about in green rooms, dissected on podcasts, and splashed across tabloids. But what began as a messy, emotional dispute between actors Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds on one side and director Justin Baldoni on the other has now escalated into a legal earthquake with the potential to shake the foundations of media accountability, celebrity power, and journalistic ethics in America. At the heart of the storm is Baldoni's aggressive legal appeal, a meticulously crafted 78-page document filed in federal court that doesn't just defend his reputation, but launches a full-scale counteroffensive against Blake Lively, her legal team, and the journalistic institution that gave her story global reach, the New York Times. This isn't about box office numbers or red carpet feuds. This is about defamation, due process, and the terrifying power of narrative control in the digital age. The Origins, a project turned personal. The conflict traces back to the production of It Ends With Us, the film adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel. Baldoni, who not only directed but also starred opposite Blake Lively, was initially praised for his passion and vision. Early reports described a collaborative, emotionally intense set. But behind the scenes, according to Baldoni's filings, a different story was unfolding. Lively, the filings allege, began to assert unprecedented control over creative decisions, from script rewrites to editing choices, far beyond the scope of her role as lead actress and producer. When Baldoni pushed back, citing artistic integrity and contractual boundaries, tensions reportedly escalated. What followed, according to Baldoni's team, was a coordinated campaign to discredit him, not through formal channels, but through anonymous sources, strategic leaks, and ultimately, a blockbuster feature in the New York Times that painted Baldoni as difficult, controlling, and emotionally volatile. The Times article, published in late 2024, didn't name Baldoni outright in its headline, but context and industry knowledge left little doubt. It quoted multiple sources close to the production, all anonymous, describing Baldoni as unhinged and unprofessional. It cited alleged on-set meltdowns and power grabs that supposedly derailed production. Crucially, it did not include Baldoni's side, despite, Baldoni claims, multiple attempts by his representatives to provide comment and documentation. Lively's camp remained silent publicly, but behind the scenes, Baldoni alleges her legal team was orchestrating the narrative, feeding information to journalists and leveraging her star power and industry relationships to ensure the story gained maximum traction. The legal turning point. Baldoni initially filed a defamation suit in California state court, but the case was dismissed on jurisdictional grounds, a technical win for Lively, but not a substantive one. Undeterred, Baldoni refiled in federal court, this time adding the New York Times as a co-defendant and expanding the scope of his claims. His core argument? That Lively, acting in concert with her PR and legal teams, knowingly fed false and defamatory statements to the New York Times, which then published them without adequate verification, violating basic journalistic standards and Baldoni's right to reputation and due process. The appeal, filed just last week, is not merely a legal document, it's a manifesto. It accuses Lively of weaponizing media access and abusing her platform to silence dissent. It accuses the New York Times of abandoning editorial rigor in favor of celebrity access and of becoming a mouthpiece for Hollywood elites seeking to destroy reputations without accountability. Perhaps most damningly, Baldoni's team attached internal communications, emails, texts, and production notes that allegedly show Lively's team discussing managing the narrative around Baldoni months before the Times article was published. In one email chain, a member of Lively's team reportedly writes, "We need to make sure his version doesn't get out. The press will believe us." Why this appeal could be devastating. There are 3 reasons this appeal is so dangerous, not just for Lively but for the New York Times and the entire media ecosystem. 1. The evidence is specific and damning ****. Unlike many celebrity defamation suits, which rely on vague claims of hurt feelings or misrepresentation. Baldoni's filing is packed with specific, time-stamped, documented evidence. Emails,
Call logs.
witness statements from crew members who say they were pressured to corroborate false claims. Even internal studio memos that contradict the narrative pushed by Lively's camp. This isn't hearsay. It's a paper trail.
2.
The New York Times is now legally on the hook ***. By naming the Times as a defendant, Baldoni has forced the paper into a corner. Either they stand by their reporting and open themselves up to discovery, depositions, and potential liability, or they backtrack, issue corrections, and risk their credibility. Legal experts say the Times will likely try to shield itself behind the First Amendment, but Baldoni's team is arguing that the Times acted with actual malice, a legal standard that, if proven, strips away constitutional protections. To prove actual malice, Baldoni must show the Times either knew the statements were false or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. The attached evidence, including emails between Times reporters and Lively's publicists, may be enough to meet that threshold.
3.
The cultural moment is ripe for reckoning ***. This case arrives at a time when public trust in media is at an all-time low. Audiences are increasingly skeptical of anonymous sources, insider reports, and stories that feel more like character assassinations than journalism. Baldoni's appeal taps into that frustration. It frames him not as a Hollywood insider, but as an artist railroaded by a system that protects the powerful. His legal team has already begun leaking portions of the filing to sympathetic outlets, and the public response has been overwhelming. Social media is ablaze with #IStandWithBaldoni hashtags. Petitions demanding accountability from the Times have gathered hundreds of thousands of signatures. Even more telling, several high-profile journalists and legal scholars have publicly questioned the Times' handling of the story. When you rely entirely on anonymous sources aligned with one party in a dispute, you're not reporting, you're advocacy, wrote media critic Emily Bell in The Guardian. Blake Lively, caught in the crossfire? Blake Lively has remained publicly silent, a strategy that once served her well, but now may be backfiring. Her silence is being interpreted not as grace, but as guilt. Her legal team has issued boilerplate denials. The claims are without merit, and we will vigorously defend against them, but those statements ring hollow against the weight of Baldoni's evidence. More troubling for Lively, the appeal alleges she personally directed the smear campaign. Not through her team, but through direct messages, phone calls, and meetings. If those claims are substantiated, this isn't just a PR crisis, it's a career-altering scandal. Lively's brand has always been built on elegance, charm, and girl next door.